Hey, what is up, everybody? DiscussionVerse here to talk about Wolfman 2025 as it is coming out in the next couple of days. And to my surprise, it actually does look really good. I mean, I kind of figured since it is coming from a very promising director in Lei Whannell, whom you would remember from directing 2020's The Invisible Man, which was a really awesome take on a classic Universal Monsters character. So I personally am really excited to see how this plays out and how good it actually can be. Before we get into that, this is a quick reminder here that this is the road to 500 subscribers. So show your support by smashing that like button, comment, and of course subscribe if you haven't already. Now, in this classic Universal monster tale, Whannell follows Blake, a family man who relocates from San Francisco to Oregon with his wife Charlotte and his daughter Ginger after inheriting his childhood home. This house was left vacant after his estranged father's mysterious disappearance and the presumed death, so that becomes the backdrop for the terrifying ordeal. During a full moon, the family is attacked by a werewolf and Blake is clawed on the arm. As they barricade themselves inside the farmhouse, Blake starts to transform into something horrific, putting his wife and daughter in grave danger. The cast here is stacked with talent. We got Christopher Abbott as Blake, whom you might recognize from Possessor, which was one of my personal favorite movies of the last couple years. We also have Julia Garner as his wife Charlotte, and she's known for her role in Ozark. From here, we then get Matilda Firth as their daughter Ginger, and with her, there are a few more fresh faces in the supporting cast. This includes Sam Yeager, Ben Prendergast, and Benedict Hardy. Now, one of the more unique areas for the Wolfman is actually in its development and production. So if you did not know, now you know. Back in July 2014, Universal did announce their intended Dark Universe franchise, which was centered around their iconic Universal monsters, including the Wolfman. However, after the failure of The Mummy, which was released in 2017 and meant to kickstart the shared universe, Universal then pivoted to focus on individual stories. This led to the eventual creation of this new Wolfman project that has been in the works ever since. This pivot eventually led to Lei Whannell's version of The Invisible Man released in 2020, which was really successful and really unique as it was a fresh take on a classic Universal monster character while also managing to incorporate a very strong story for the protagonist that is facing the titular Invisible Man. And not only was Whannell's The Invisible Man really good, this man has a proven track record. He's been a main writer of the Saw franchise at least for the first 3. Then he went on to write Dead Silence. He teamed up with James Wan to bring Insidious to life. Not only that, he then took over directorial duties with Insidious Chapter 3, then went back to writing. Then his main movie on his own was Upgrade, which was amazing, and that stars Logan Marshall Green, who really did a great job in that movie. Nonetheless, something that you guys should watch and put on your notes here: The Invisible Man and Upgrade. Prior to Whannell taking on the project for Wolfman, at one point Ryan Gosling was attached to this. In 2020, it was reported that he not only wrote a version for this movie, but wanted to act and also wanted to direct. Though, because of scheduling conflicts, Gosling did eventually have to step down from his own director's chair and just focus on writing and acting. So in 2021, they tapped Derek Cianfrance to direct the film, but because of his own scheduling conflicts, both he and Gosling did eventually leave the project in full. Then Blumhouse and Universal tapped Whannell once again to say, hey, can you direct this movie and bring it to life for us? Now, that's important to note because Whannell did originally turn down the studio and their approach for the project in Wolfman. It wasn't until Jason Blum of Blumhouse had sat down with Whannell and discussed what he can do and how he trusts him in bringing this project to life. So from there, Whannell was like, you know what, I'll do this, and eventually decided to fully go into it. And I think the way that he's approaching it is really making me believe that this movie can be genuinely good. So the reason why I feel like it could be genuinely good is because Whannell has discussed in a few interviews now how he's been heavily inspired by David Cronenberg's The Fly, is because he admires how the film used practical effects to portray the tragedy of a body failing due to illness rather than just focusing on the gore for gore's sake. He also talked about The Thing and how he loves the use of practical effects there, and that's exciting for me because you guys should all be The Thing fans. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie, the original. It's phenomenal to this day, still stands up as one of the best here. So with that in mind, those are great inspirations to draw from and do your own approach in something that has been done a few times now with the Wolfman, and especially the character of a werewolf. Whannell goes on and explain in his interviews is that what The Fly did that a lot of other practical effects driven horror movies didn't do was bring the tragedy out of those effects. This is about the tragedy of the human body falling apart. this sense of tragedy would be seen with this movie, as from the trailers we understand that Blake is a father that is trying to protect his family, but ultimately becomes the very threat that is gonna hurt his family. So how do you deal with that, and how do you show that? And I think that's a really cool way to take this movie. That also leads me into the werewolf's design itself. So Wanell has promised fans 100% practical creature design with no CGI involved, though he did note that some people may not be thrilled with this new take on the werewolf, but for those who appreciate a fresh approach, they'll be in for a treat. Wanell explains that, "I think you have to bring a new approach. Maybe some people won't like it because they love the traditional wolf too much, but that was the approach I wanted." Another great thing is that both Wanell and the special effects artists currently working on the Wolfman, they do respect the past and they do respect the other iterations of the Wolfman that have been brought to life by Rick Baker, Stan Winston, to name a few people. Though the really cool thing is the special effects artist currently working on the Wolfman had started his career under the supervision of those names, Rick Baker, Stan Winston, and Dick Smith as well, and has done some great work. So this is another piece of the recipe that makes me believe that this is going to be a really good film, even though it has a lot of odds stacked against it, as the audience did have reactions on the creature's design based off seeing this in a Universal 2024 Halloween Horror Nights display that Wanell did have to clarify and do damage control for. As he explained, that doesn't represent what we're doing. And on top of this, I noticed a little bit less interest than most movies online, and I also noted that this movie is being dropped in January and February, which are known as dump months. Despite those stacked odds, I still genuinely believe that this is going to be a really great film and a really welcomed addition into the horror genre, which also doubles as bringing a classic Universal monster back to life. We saw Wanell breathe new life into the Invisible Man and brought that classic Universal monster to life, so let's see if he can knock it out of the park again and go 2 for 2 here, which I personally think he will do. Though the real question here is, what do you guys think? Do you think Wolfman 2025 is gonna be a great movie, and will it bring the Universal monsters back to life for additional projects for other classic monsters in there? I mean, for me personally, I want to see something from the creature from the Black Lagoon, especially if Wolfman does great and Universal continues with their character focus. Then they could do something like that, or pick another character from the classic monsters, whatever. But nonetheless, I hope this continues. With that being said, that does wrap up my thoughts here for Wolfman 2025 and why I think that it's gonna be a really great movie. Once more, this is the road to 500 subscribers, so be sure to smash that like button, comment, and of course subscribe if you're new to the channel. Then turn on that notification bell so you never miss a new video. Until next time, I'll catch you guys later. Peace.